Take one. So, still in chapter one. Like I said, I'm trying to pull it all together. But at the end of chapter one, they talk about studying and protecting humans. And this is something that I really want to mention. There are several ethical guidelines that psychologists have to follow. So, as you know, APA, or the American Psychological Association, is a really big organization that's kind of like, if you're into psychology, you want to be affiliated with that organization. It's massive. It's like the largest international organization dedicated to the study of human thinking and behaving using science. Now, there are other reputable, wonderful, awesome organizations, but APA is really big. If you're a student, a psych student, I would suggest joining APA as a student affiliate because it's very inexpensive as a student. And once a year, there's annual conventions. You can go to these conventions and you can meet some of these uh, researchers that are in your course textbook, and you can mingle with other people who geek out on psychology like you and I. But anyway, APA has some guidelines that have been put forth, and if you're studying people, you have to follow these guidelines. You can't just conduct research willy nilly. I know some of the studies we look at, classic studies, were considered unethical and they violated some of these guidelines, but nowadays there are institutional review boards, IRBs, that make sure that you are going to treat your subjects, your human subjects and animal subjects, with respect and dignity. And you're going to put the priority on valuing human life over, finding out the answer to a question. But with that said, there are some terms that you need to be aware of: informed consent, debriefing, and confidentiality. I want to mention those three because these are kind of three of the big ones. Informed consent means that you have to tell your participants enough about the study so they can decide whether they want to be a part of it or they want to, you know, say no thank you. Okay, you have to have informed consent. That is necessary. Next, I mentioned debriefing. Debriefing happens at the very end of the experiment. In about 30% of social psych experiments, deception is used. And deception is used sometimes because when the researcher is asking a question, if the subject knew exactly what they were looking for, they might respond in a way that's socially desirable and not be real. So they might use a hint of deception. Now, keep in mind, when they use deception, they usually don't lie about what you have to do. They usually distort what they're studying, not what you have to do. So they still give you informed consent. But anyway, at the end of the study, they need to tell you about the experiment. They need to tell you that they deceived you and why they deceived you, and offer some aid if need be. Okay, so informed consent happens before the study even starts. You ask participants, you tell them enough about the study, and they decide whether or not they want to be a part of it. And then with debriefing at the end of the study, you tell them what they need to know. The other thing I mentioned was confidentiality. You have to keep the information confidential. The only way you can share information about the study or participants is that they allow you to share information. In other words, you would come up with a fake name or a pseudonym for your subjects, or you would, distort, just go by an initial or something like that. You wouldn't say, put the person's information on blast. You wouldn't put them out there. So those are things to consider. There's other things to consider when you study human and animal subjects. And this whole discussion is titled ethics. So ethics in psychological research. And you probably studied this topic in other social science courses if you've taken them, but it's really important. So you can't just do a formal experiment and not consider the ethics. Even when it comes to doing descriptive research, ethics matter. So you have to put the priority on showing respect for human subjects. All right, so that's another video down. I think I might touch on a couple more topics from chapter one, and then I'm gonna, for chapter two, switch gears and talk over a PowerPoint where I can have more visual images and see if you guys like that format better. Okay, that's it, folks.